All right, what's up, guys? I had to take a little bit of a break there, but guess what? I'm back. I had to take a little bit of R&R. Adult life kicked in, and now we're back to the car projects here. But this video essentially is 2 weeks worth of hell tied into just one simple thing. Everything from a turbo that leaks oil to an oil intercooler that leaks water to water lines that are leaking oil, and hell, let's get started. And we got the Goblin on this one here. So power tour's right around the corner. This thing ain't making it to power tour at this point. We did get our standalone harness in from CBM. If any of you guys are aware of that, yeah, no more GM crap for this thing here. So looks like we got a little bit of an issue over here we need to address. So we ran our coolant lines through the frame here. Our was that our outlet, our inlet? Anyways, we need to take that and we need to go up to the factory coolant line up here. I've got some scrap hoses here we're going to try to make work. So essentially, we're going from there to right there, and we got to fill in the rest. And then we got to make sure it doesn't leak. And then I think what we'll do is we'll prime the cooling system and check for leaks. No, my luck though, it'll probably leak. All right, so I've been wrapping my head around kind of how to do this. I picked up this little tool from GSTP. It's a tube bender. Well, it's a tube beater. And since we're gonna have to end up doing some custom turbo lines and stuff on this eventually, figured we'd get some good practice here making some coolant lines. But in theory, you put that in there, you turn this little handle here, and it beads your pipe. No, that's flat and flush there. And then let's just, I knew I'm gonna have to bolt that thing down. All right, check that out there. That actually looks pretty good. Wow. Takes a little bit to turn that sucker there. You can see on the inside too. Wow, that looks factory. Well, Gearhead's Garage factory quality right there. Now we should be able to get a little pipe lined up. Let's get that in there. We'll go for a deep set, and we'll call it right there. Come on, Ted. Come on, yellow marker. So we did all this right, it should go in the hole. Ah, look at that, it fit. Yeah. Man, looks like something GM would charge you $150 for. Put some blue logos on it. Come on, you sucker. All right, so we're all set. We're locked in here. And look, this isn't even rubbing on the transmission there either. So it's actually got a lot of good amount of tension on that. So that was nice. We may do a little coated clamp in here just in case. That clutch line is in the way right now, but once that clutch line gets officially routed and connected into the top of the transmission, it'll be out of the way. And then down here, I'm a little concerned with how this went together. I may go back and double check that, but we got one more line to run up here on the overflow expansion tank, and then I would say that we're probably ready to pull out the water hose, fill this sucker up, and get it pressurized with water to make sure. I'm not going to dump a bunch of coolant in here and find out it it leaks all over the place here, but we'll do a double check here. We'll get our pressure gauge on it, and let's see if she floats. All right, well, just when we were about to do a little leak down test here, we got problems, and I don't even know how I didn't even see this here. Remember these two bolts here, all right? And remember that little hole there on the thermostat housing? So I was like thinking, the turbo is oil cooled, and it's also water cooled. Okay, the water comes in here, goes out the outlet here, returns back to the thermostat housing. Now, what I'm trying to figure out, remember, not the original owner, is right up in the top of the, well, we'll say the valve cover, but it's technically the block head here on the water jacket. You got a water outlet here as well. You got one that goes right over here back to the expansion tank, and I had to go and look at my Pontiac outside to try to figure this one out. So the line comes off here, runs on the side of the motor, and it's supposed to go in there, come out here, cycle back in there. All right, but why in the hell would you disconnect that? So, hoping the turbo's not fried here and we're totally screwed. I mean, again, you can buy these KO4s all day long, but man, we're about ready to fire this thing up. I totally forgot to show you like the most important detail. So I found this line in our random box of parts, and it pretty much goes like that, all right? Somebody blocked off the tube so it doesn't leak and blow coolant everywhere. So, man, whoever was playing around with this originally before we got our hands on it, look at that, look at that. Alrighty, so we were gonna get this one done here. So for our Ecotec guys out there, you know who you are. I went and looked at some of these lines just to check. Very limited supply. GM's no longer making them, and they're gonna run you about $250 for a small hard line. So we're gonna do this a different way here. Remember these guys? You got a ton of still got a ton of leftovers in here that I think is gonna work for us here. Be, is that a crush washer there? This should be M14. That's what I figured on this one. M14 to AN6. How the hell does that even go on? It's like two different styles on each side. Huh? Eeny, meeny, miny, moo. Hopefully that one clears in there. That's a tight fit right there. I think we got one more. So it looks like our in, out, and our thermostat's all M14. All right, so I'm making do with what I got here. We're not gonna use this one over here. That is essentially, I wouldn't say a push lock, I don't know. It's a type of push lock, AN6, I forgot the name of that one, but I think what we're gonna do here is we're gonna use another 90. I'm trying to figure out, I want to avoid the hot side of the turbo. I don't know how I'm gonna go about this just yet. What I may do is, we may wrap this bell here, or route it down. Darn, I don't know how we're gonna do this. Huh. All right, here's what I'm figuring out here. We're gonna run this down, over, it back up. I know, crazy, right? It can't go anywhere near the exhaust side of it here. I don't know what the KO4 temps are, but you know, on turbos, these get over 1,000 degrees here. I've seen some at 1,800. I know, sounds wild, right? And then on the compressor side, you're looking at about 400 degrees, if so, on the top end. So I don't want this anywhere near that here. So I'm gonna run it down and over, and then that one will just run straight up. I juggled a few different connections here, but this is really the only way I think this is gonna work here with some 3/8 line there. All right, so I think we might need a little bit of adjustment on our AN690, but I think that'll work for us. I mean, we could run it and just dangle it like that, use less line, and it's just gonna dangle, maybe use a coated clamp. I don't know, I don't think there's really the best way to do this here. I think if we run it down here, we can at least clean it up a little bit, but all this is gonna be hidden by the intercooler. I don't know, what do you guys think? I'd say leave comments, and then we'll figure out what we're gonna do, but by the time the video's up, it's gonna be done. So, might just swing it like that. For now, you won't see it. Could do is adjust that over. That's too much of an aggressive bend on that. I don't like that. I think we'll do that. Nothing like using a pair of siding shears to cut radiator hose. All right, so we're ready to pressure test this sucker here. You know, again, 290s and M14, 3/8 hose, same thing down here. What I'm still kind of poking at is this output that goes back into the thermostat, which is our hot out on our turbo. I know there's better ways to run that. If you guys think of something that doesn't involve me going out and buying hardline or making hardline or any of that stuff, put it in the comment section. If it's something that's like, whoa, I should have done that, then maybe we'll come in here and we'll redo that there. This one just runs up. We'll clean it up a little later, right at the top of the block here. But essentially, instead of spending about $400 in lines, we spent $0, and we got cooling lines for our turbo there. It's got about 1.5 gallons of water in here. It's not really flowing much more. Let's go ahead and add some air to it. I don't see any external leaks or anything just yet, so we'll check her out. Say a prayer, guys. It sucked. We got like some crazy big leaks in here. I'm not gonna be a happy person. All right, where are we at on our? Oh, we're not sealed yet. Oops. We got 2 leaks here. Let's see if I can get that camera right in there. So that line right there, no biggie. I missed the clamp on that one, so that's my fault there. But we got a big one in the back. Well, I wouldn't say big, but look at that, right on the turbo. And it's not the line that I did. So I can't figure out where that one's coming from there. It's coming from the bottom of the turbo, which might explain why that was blocked off. But it's not our lines that we just did. We have another one over here. Where's that leak coming from there? I don't see. It's almost like the thermostat housing. All right, so 3 so far. We got turbo, thermostat housing, and then right on the oil intercooler line there. But I think that's about all we got. Not too bad. All right, so I got the other leaks, well, mitigated for now. Let's go back to this turbo here. And I think we've got it figured out. Well, I think we've determined why these ding-dongs that own the car kind of plugged the coolant lines. They had a severe turbo leak in here, and I think it's coming from the interior water jacket in there. Can't quite pinpoint exactly where it's at. All right, so we found our little culprit here. Again, it's not our lines. Right on the back of the KO4, it's a little difficult to see. Right in there. Get you a little light. Right there. Come on, hold that light steady. You got 2 bungs with 2 crush washers. Let's pull those suckers out and inspect those. I think that's our problem. One of these are loose already. Well, that don't look too bad. Let's check the bottom one. That one ain't bad either. We're gonna put these back in, tighten them back up. All right, so we just put some water in it, and our leak is still by our oil cooler here. I got the clamp on, but looks like the leak is actually in the hose itself. There really isn't any more. Try to cut it back a little bit and see and inspect that hose and see what we can come up with here. But turbo's not leaking, which is nice. Our little fix here, found some new crush washers. Ain't got nothing going on over here. What else is dripping? I hear something dripping, or is it the cooler? It's the cooler dripping. Other than that, am I missing anything else? I think that's all we got going on. It's just those 2 there. Huh. All right, so that's our little doohickey problem we got going on here. GM don't make that anymore. Can you believe that? So Continental doesn't make it, Dayco doesn't make it. I found one on eBay. The guy wants $325 for it. He can kick rocks. We're not gonna buy that. So I know GM engineers installed this lovely oil cooler to the motor. We're gonna get rid of that sucker, and we're gonna do something a little different here. So the internet police is gonna correct me on this one, I bet. But I think it was the LDK and the LNF were the only ones that had a block cooler like this because of the turbo. But you know what? We don't need it. Well, we do, but we don't need this one. heck is a hole? There we go. You know, this oil cooler was like the root of many issues. In the beginning, it had a pretty high failure rate. Not the cooler itself, but well, oh, we just lost it. Well, it's off now. All right, well, there you have it. That's your oil cooler. It's going to be the same on the Pontiac Solstice, Saturn Sky GXPs, all that fun stuff there. I'm looking at this with some ding-dong spray painted the motor black after they rebuilt it, but I don't see any stamping on this. Never seen GM parts that don't have a stamp on there. Looks like that actually was it right there. Maybe the sticker that was on the side there. But yeah, pretty simple little design. Oil goes in there, kind of swashes around, gargles around in there, and comes out the other end. And then coolant passes through and essentially cools your oil. But we don't need this, do we now? Yeah, you always give me that look. So we will have to divert some cooling lines here. We're gonna keep our little cut that we did down here. I'm gonna need to get some elbows. I gotta think this one out. So we're gonna do a 90 over here. We're gonna cut that out there, 90 that. I think that's 3/8 on that one there. And then we gotta get an elbow for that one down there to 90 that as well, which goes to our other line for our thermostat. You know, since we were at it, we might as well have just deleted the thermostat, but this project is way, way over budget. Let's look down here though. Look at all that grit. Don't want that in our oil now, do we? This is the only alternative I could come up with, was a little bit of an external oil cooler here. And then, man, check out these. These are some heavy duty snakes right here. AN10 fittings. So those are, man, that is some massive stuff right there. Get that routed. Somehow we're gonna have to fit that into those holes down there. I don't know how we're gonna do that. You know, I'll tell you, brake parts cleaner don't hit like it used to. We probably got rid of all that cancer stuff in there. Look at that. Looks like somebody missed a spot when they were painting this. A little bit of, what is that? So since GM don't make that pipe anymore, we picked up this little doohickey from ZZP. I didn't even know they actually made these. Check it out. It's an AN10 fitting. It pretty much blocks off your original OEM oil cooler there. It bolts right up. Look at that. Then we can run some lines there. Pretty nifty little thing we got. Oh, it lined up a second ago. Huh. All right, we're just gonna. All right, let's get this in here. Essentially, it's just a AN fitting with a 1/8 MPT on the top for our oil pressure sender or oil temp, whatever. But if you don't get this just right and lined up, you'll never get that sensor to lock down in there. All right, should be pretty good there. Straighten that up just a little bit. How we looking? All right, nice and flush. All right, well, since we're in here too, we need to do some routing. We had to go back to the drawing board. We're gonna go ahead and replace the clutch elbow here, our lubricating elbow. This is a common point of failure. It's typically pretty hard to get to on the Solstice and the Cobalts and all that fun stuff, and I think I need a screwdriver. All right, it's pretty quick to take these apart. There's a locking ring here, locking neck, locking pin, cotter pin, whatever you want to call it. And your line Once that's disconnected, no, actually we're just gonna pull it out because we're replacing it. Should pull right out. This one's what, 17, 18 years old. Is it original GM? No idea. I like how this video turned into a coolant line installation video with a knurling tool, and now we're installing all kinds of crazy stuff here, but you gotta do what you gotta do. Yeah, we don't need that. Pop that out. Slap that in there. Lock it in. Come on. There we go. And you got one more right on the back. You don't need that. Make sure your old nipple is nice and clean. And what you can do here, pull that, just like you do a Granada. We're going to push that right onto there. Heck, I think we might need to go back to the drawing board on all our plumbing here. Figure out how we're going to route this, put this oil line on, and then we'll figure this out. I think I might have to go back on the other side of that clutch line. Alright, so this is like snowball central now. So now that we had to remove a bunch of lines, we got to get rid of all these T's. We got to figure out how we're going to plumb this out. That thermostat housing has a ton of outputs on it and inputs. And since we're got our sweet little standalone thing here, I think we can run that here on there. That'll cut us to our expansion tank there. And then we have our return line down here on the thermostat, which will run into our frame rail line that we made at the beginning here. Man, complicated stuff, Jesus. And if I did my math correctly, it should be about right for what we need to do there. Damn it. Right here. So, whew, man, this bottle sprays like all over the place. Go right onto there. All right, so I think that's gonna work out for us there. You can look at that crazy thermostat housing right down in there. So we're going right up in here, which is gonna go right to our purge tank. We eliminated the T out of there that went essentially to the oil cooler, and then right off the output on the thermostat housing down there, right here, we're tying it right into our return for the radiator. And then we eliminated the T there that essentially went to the old oil cooler. So got rid of about 2 T's and 4 coolant lines there, and created more failure points. So, hey, we under-engineered and oversimplified. Now it's time to see if this sucker will at least hold some water and not leak all over the place, and then we can start to kind of clean up all our lines. All right, go ahead and start placing them wagers now. What do y'all think? Think it'll hold? Think it'll leak? And that don't fit. That one don't fit either. What the heck's going on? It's just not holding on there. All right. So, I don't have any leaks. It's holding, which is good. For now, how much water we got in there? It looks like we just pumped. Oh, there it comes back. All right, let's put a little more juice in there. Not quite. And it looks like we're holding. Well, let's let it sit for a second, come back about 20. Well, I think I hear something. Nope. Must be getting old. All right, so it's been about 20 or so minutes on this one. And it's supposed to be 13 to 16. So it looks like we had a little drop there. Huh. Alrighty. So I don't see any visible leaks anywhere or anything. It's all bone dry down there. Let's check our turbo. All dry here. Backside is nice and dry. Huh. Check our points. Uh-oh, I think I found it. So, yep, that's our culprit. We got a slow drip right on the thermostat housing there, on the bolt there. Is it dry here? It's bone dry there. It's wet there. Or if it just might be a little loose. Let's go ahead and depressurize this. See what we can figure out. All right, tighten up the bolt. Looked like it was a little bit loose. Actually, where's that water line? We need a bit of a insurance policy. Y'all see that? All right, we'll come back. All right, what do y'all think? Let's see what we got going on here. So, it's not super accurate, but didn't move. Let's check our little line down there. I don't see nothing here. Water didn't move. Let's check our thermostat really quick. Everything else is set. We're not leaking anywhere else, but is that wet still? Look at that, still leaking, even after tightening it up. So pull that out, check that seal. That was brand new from when we rebuilt it, but it doesn't look like it's getting a good attach point there. Let's see what we got going on in here. Yeah, these are a lot easier to get out than paying $1,300 to do a thermostat change. And okay, and well, I think we found our problem. Feeling kind of dumb. Should have probably put the thermostat back in the motor. Wow. The way these are set up is the thermostat is the seal versus actually putting, you know, essentially a paper seal here, rubber, or whatever. The thermostat slips in and it seals itself, but it's definitely, well, yeah. That would have saved us a bunch of time. Well, let's check the drawer. All right. Wow, what an amateur thing to do here. We got a leak up here. All right, now we're not holding at all. What's going on? Where's our water level at? All right, I'm gonna let that sit there. How are we looking? Look at that, bone dry. Imagine that, putting the thermostat in it will seal it up and fix our problem. Turbo, it's not leaking. Nothing on the back is leaking. Let's check the head over here. Got nothing going on here. That's locked in. No leaks, no leaks. I don't see any leaks. I think we might be all set. Let's check and see if we had any pressure drop here. Yeah, we're still sitting good. It's holding. Wow. All that's from earlier. Let's say we are, anything? No? Damn. Holy crap. I mean, I know the video is not going to be that long, but it only took me like 2 weeks. 2 weeks to fix this one. Yeah, it was a while. Yeah, all right, let's check back on this sucker. I gave it a couple hours, went and had a sandwich and whatnot, took a nap, and we're still doing good. So, let's pop her off. Don't ever do that when it's hot. It'll blow you up. All right, we are done with that. My goodness, well, that was stressful. Like 2 weeks worth of trying to figure this sucker out here. Well, not stressful on your part, but starting to kind of second guess myself on this one here. But essentially what turned into us creating some coolant lines, turned into us completely removing the OEM cooling system for the oil that we don't need, installing essentially an external oil cooler, plumbing that into the side of the motor, dealing with some leaks, leaky turbo. Thank God I don't have to spend like $600 on a turbo. God forbid I had to get like a 70 millimeter. I think we're about ready to fire this thing up. We're getting really, really, really close. I'll tell you what, this little tool came in handy. Again, I don't even know what it's called, tube bead roller, but I'll put it in the description for you guys. You guys go check it out if you're really building some turbo lines, turbo tubing, custom couplers. I mean, it's a pretty cool little tool to have there. But you know what, on another note, we're actually gonna be shelving the Goblin for a while. Hot Rod Power Tour is coming up in less than a month or so. We're going alone this year, so it's gonna be a little different. I don't have anybody to help me push when I decide to pass the gas station and, well, run out of gas a mile from the gas station. So haven't really figured out sleeping arrangements. I got a whole list of stuff that we gotta do on the T-bucket before we hit the road, but at least this year we'll be able to pack a few things, maybe a tent, stove, TV, a bunch of cool stuff there. So see you guys in the next couple weeks. We'll pull out the T-bucket, get that sucker ready to go. We're gonna head up to Indiana, then over to Michigan. Actually, no, it's Indiana, Illinois, Michigan, Ohio, back to essentially central Indiana. So I'm Charles. Make sure you guys hit the like and subscribe, and see you in a couple weeks.